We are just one episode away until the finale of The Rings of Power. I watched episode 7, and let me tell you, I didn't think it could get worse. Somehow it did. Hi everyone, my name is Jacob Airy. Welcome to the StudioJake vidcast where I talk about all things pop culture. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and if you're watching on YouTube, ring that little bell so you get notifications and consider becoming a channel member. Alright, so spoiler warning, I'm going to be doing my summary of the 7th episode of The Rings of Power. Just so you know, there's going to be a lot of sighing, heavy breathing, and whatnot because this episode, oh my gosh, it doesn't just canon break from Tolkien's masterpieces that he wrote, it also canon breaks from the show itself. So let's dive right into it. Okay, so we open on a wide shot of Celebrimbor. He's sipping tea and still under the spell that Anatar put him under, and we see that he's finally succeeding in forging the 9 rings of power, the ones that will go to men, of course. He looks at himself in a mirror and briefly sees just how ragged he is, but then Anatar, who is of course Sauron, bursts in, gaslights him, and then Celebrimbor gives this long speech about how the world needs to be in harmony or some such nonsense. Anatar leaves, and we see that the city is not the vision that Celebrimbor sees, but is in fact under siege by Ador's Ark army. And they're still setting rocks on fire. Again, they're just putting torches to rocks. They're not showing that they put oil or any sort of explosive on it. They just put a torch and the rocks light on fire and they're still firing. The blonde chick, elf, she's like, what do we do? And Anatar, he takes command and tells them that Celebrimbor has lost his mind, that he's just too obsessed with forging these rings. So he takes commands, tells them to order a counteroffensive, and then the orcs start firing their catapults at a mountain in order to dam the river. And that blonde elf chick that's been running around, who clearly has a crush on Anatar and used to work with Celebrimbor, she states the most obvious thing in the world: they're trying to dam the river. Yeah, duh, we can see that. We're not idiots. We know that that's what they're trying to do. Anyway, we see that the buzzcut elf, he arrives and he's like, oh, like all shocked. And then Celebrimbor sees a mouse or something. So then it cuts to Khazad-dûm with the dwarves, and King Durin III receives word of the assault on the elf city, but he tells his men to take back the mine from his son. So then we cut to Durin IV and Disa. I guess they think Disa can just scream her way out of this predicament, but instead the king's men sides with the son. They decide to do this, and then Elrond is there for some reason, and he asks for Durin for help to save the elf city where the blacksmith is, and they have this really touching heart-to-heart moment. Oh, it's so touching. We see then that Adar orders the orcs and the wildmen to storm the city, and I'm actually not convinced that these were actually wildmen in the shot. There's only one shot where you see wildmen. I honestly think it was just orcs that they forgot to put makeup on. That's just my opinion, but it certainly looked that way. Remember when Adar said he didn't want his orc brethren to die? Well, a lot of them die pretty quickly when the elves start, hitting them with arrows and, shooting them and whatnot. And the orcs kind of take notice of this. Anatar, he comes back to Celebrimbor, and he's still staring at the mouse. And through this mouse and through a candle, Celebrimbor has deduced that this was all an illusion. Anatar tries to gaslight him again, but Celebrimbor reveals that he knows that he's not a messenger of the Valar because the Valar only speak truth. So then Celebrimbor throws a thing at the window and it shatters, and then that's when the illusion breaks and he sees that everything is under siege. Celebrimbor then cries for some reason, and he realizes that his forge is destroyed, and he demands answers. Now, remember when I said that Anatar gives him mithril, even though the dwarves kick him out, and I thought, oh, well, did he steal it from the dwarves? Well, turned out it wasn't actually mithril, it was Sauron's blood. I think that would be easy to tell apart from mithril, but whatever. I guess that's why Sauron cut his hand in the previous episode, because he still has the scratch, because that just happened a few hours ago. Celebrimbor goes into the city. He's very angry, and he finds one of his elf underlings, the blonde elf chick, and she thinks he's gone crazy, especially when he tries to say that Anatar is Sauron. The orcs are now trying to pull down the wall of the elf city, and Anatar is ordered to be arrested by Celebrimbor, but his soldiers turn on Celebrimbor. Anatar tricks Celebrimbor into throwing the blonde elf chick over the wall, and she gets killed. They arrest Celebrimbor, and just before they take him away, Anatar kind of whispers to him, "If you forge the 9 rings, I'll spare your city." A horn blows, and Elrond and the High King arrive with their elf army to save the city from Adar and his forces, but Adar reveals that he's holding Galadriel hostage. So then the elf army halts. Okay, the fate of Middle-earth is at stake. Sauron is in that city. Both sides know it. Elrond has a chance to take the advantage here, but instead he decides to stop because they have Galadriel hostage. What a moron. Anyway, so then Elrond and Adar have like this negotiation, Adar being the orc general. Oops, I misgendered him. I'm sorry. The Uric, the father Uric. He says that, listen, Sauron's in the city. We both work together to stop him. You give me your ring elf, and I'll let Galadriel go, and you'll just have to sacrifice your city. Elrond is like, no, listen, you said that you were a father, that you wanted to take care of your orcs, but look, you're just leading them to the slaughter. Are you okay with this? Are they okay with this? But Adar, like an idiot, just kind of dismisses Elrond, and then Elrond and Galadriel kiss as he says goodbye to her because he's not willing to sacrifice the elf army to let her go. She understands this. Of course, he slips her something because this is Rings of Power. More on the kiss later. Elrond leaves knowing that the dwarves are coming, or thinking that the dwarves are coming, and we see that Celebrimbor is chained to a smith and is being forced to finish the 9 rings. We see that Durin the Fourth has rallied the dwarf army, and we see that they have sided with him, that they are not going to follow their king any longer, that he's succumbed to the greed of the dwarven ring. So then it comes back to Elrond and his elf army. They're trying to flank the orcs, it looks like, and he gets really sad and angry because one of the orcs kills his horsey. Oh, that's so sad. Never mind that thousands of elves are dying and being sieged upon in the city, but he stops to have a moment with his dead horse. Oh, that's so sweet. The orcs show up with like this battering ram, and they're trying to breach the wall, but they keep failing. And then one of the orc generals begs Adar to allow them to retreat, but he tells them to hold fast before discovering that Galadriel is missing, and he orders for her to be found. Galadriel is like wandering around the camp trying to find a way out, and she sees Adar have the sads because of the orc deaths. Just before she's discovered, she gets cornered, and then Buzzcut Elf Arendir, he saves her. Oh, they're there, and he's like, I'm going to go kill Adar. Now remember, Adar is within their sight. He's just a few feet away. All Arendir has to do is shoot him with an arrow. That's it. But Galadriel convinces him not to and to join the battle, so that's what she does, and strokes his cheek. So then Durin the Fourth, he's about to leave with his army, but a messenger from Disa comes and says that his father, the king, is trying to dig further, and they're worried he's going to release the Balrog. How one dwarf just hammering away at one spot is going to do this is left unexplained, but Durin the Fourth decides, maybe we shouldn't do this. So then we cut back to Sauron trying to gaslight Celebrimbor, but Celebrimbor's like, I know you're the great deceiver. I don't believe anything that you see. And Sauron gives him like this speech about how Morgoth only wanted to destroy Middle-earth, but he wants to conquer it. So now we see that the elves are throwing exploding rocks at the orcs. Where these came from, why they haven't been used previously, no idea, but we're seeing that this is a thing that is happening right now. So Celebrimbor, he finishes the 9 rings, but he realizes that Sauron is distracted, so he hides the 9 rings and cuts off a part of his hand to be able to escape the chains, even though there's like a gazillion tools in the smith. He could have easily broken the chains, but instead he cuts it off. He then wanders into the city. Galadriel is there suddenly. She used some underground tunnel to get in, she explains. She witnesses Celebrimbor about to be arrested. She stops the elves, and Celebrimbor reveals that Sauron deceived him. He made the 9 rings. He gives them to her. And so she goes off after Celebrimbor makes this big speech about light and darkness. It's very generic very poorly written speech, but he makes it. And so he takes the men that were going to arrest him to go confront Sauron. Elrond and a group of elves, they go to try to stop the battering ram from breaching the wall. A female elf kind of whines about this, and then he mansplains to her, and then she gets arrowed down, but of course not before getting that final shot off, and she managed to kind of damage the battering ram. Oh, and then Buzzcut Elf arrives to help the elf archers on the city wall, but then Adar sends out his troll, who it stomps on elf and orc alike. So then Celebrimbor confronts Sauron and finally gets a chance to do some gaslighting of his own. Sauron then hypnotizes all the elves and have them kill one another. Sauron grabs a sword and is marching toward Celebrimbor, ready to take him out. The elf archers, they keep trying to shoot the troll because he's like stomping nonstop toward the wall, and he makes it to the battering ram, and Elrond tries to sabotage it, and all of a sudden this magical elven sword can't cut through rope, even though it was, cutting through orc armor 5 seconds ago. All of a sudden it can't cut through rope. The troll like bats him away, and then he starts trying to use the battering ram with his great strength. But then the High King elf and the Buzzcut elf, they do a tag team move and manage to kill the troll, who dies laughing for some reason. The sun starts to rise, and Adar orders a full-on charge into the city. And then Elrond, he's like, hey, don't worry, the dwarves are coming, look to the north. And he sees the messenger he had sent to Khazad-dûm, but he says Durin recalled the army. Of course, Elrond doesn't respond to this very well in a very healthy manner. So the High King, though, orders them to form ranks, I guess deciding to trust Elrond, although I really think as a king he should want to protect his city. And they form ranks, and the orcs are somehow marching in the sunlight. Elrond, like an idiot, just keeps repeating, Durin will come, Durin will come, Durin will come, Durin will come, Durin will come. Durin will come. Someone's got to auto-tune that and make that into one of those songs. Buzzcut Elf charges Adar, even though he could have sniped him, just, I guess, a few hours ago for going by the timeline of the episode. But of course, Adar kills him. And then the orcs somehow reach the wall of the city through like a little tiny crack that anyone in their might Ryan could fill with just a little bit of rubble. But they're charging into the city. Adar steals Elrond's ring, and then the credits roll to a terrible metal song. Okay, so first of all, it's obvious that they did not consult anyone on how a siege works at all. The orcs don't even try to get up ladders. They don't try to throw ropes to climb them and scale the wall so they could open the gate from the inside. Also, why do the orcs trust Adar at this point? He promised them that he would give them a homeland. He did that part at least, and that they could just stay there with all their orc children, never go to war again, and then he immediately marches them into war. If I was one of these orcs, I would be like furious, because remember, these orcs, they're not the savage, evil, bloodlust orcs that Tolkien designed. No, these are just orcs that are basically Klingons from Star Trek. They just want to live in harmony and sing kumbaya and eat and dance around the campfire and whatnot. These aren't the traitorous elves and men who sided with Morgoth and got cursed. Oh, no. That's not what they are. These are just orcs who, they're just people too, and they just want to live in harmony with the rest of Middle-earth and sing songs and dance and write poems and all this jazz. That's all these orcs are. All right, and not to mention, when the orcs start marching in the sunlight, what? In Season 1, we established that sunlight harms the orcs. Did they forget about this little fact? Tolkien's world establishes orcs can't march into sunlight because it blinds them and it melts them, basically. Only Urix can march into sunlight, and we know that this army is not exclusively Urix. They make that incredibly clear. They call them orcs constantly. Forgive the misgendering of a few of them. Oh, I'm a Uric, not an Urk. It's so stupid. So they even contradicted themselves. This is the epicenter of lazy writing. They don't even try to make it where Adar does something to create smoke to block out the sunlight like they did in The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. He didn't even try to do something like that. He just leads these orcs whose weakness is sunlight, into battle and to massacre. Again, why are the orcs even hanging out with Adar anymore? That's not even the worst of it. There's only one episode left in this. We have no idea what's going to happen with Numenor. They didn't even show that. It was all about the elves and the dwarves in this one. No men shown. We don't know what happened to the Southland people, all the homeless people who took over an abandoned Numenorian port. We don't know what's going on with Isildur, the beta version of him that is, in love with a homeless woman who has a boyfriend, I guess, and he's supposed to be this great hero but doesn't even know how to take on mud. And then also we have no idea what the stranger's up to. We have no idea what Dory and Poppy are up to. What? How are they going to bring this all together? Are they seriously going to end this season in a cliffhanger after the disaster of season 1? I guess so, because as far as I'm concerned, the last 2 episodes have been focusing on what's been going on with the elves and the dwarves. So how are they going to sum this up? How are they going to bring this all together? My conclusion is they won't. They are too poor at writing to be able to do anything like this. They are creatively bankrupt. J.D. Payne and his little partner in crime don't know what they're doing. I don't even think they read the Silmarillion. They just read the Spark Notes version and then put it all together from that. Now on to the most egregious thing this episode did. The kiss between Galadriel and Elrond. I just want to point out something. Elrond is Galadriel's son-in-law. He marries Galadriel's daughter. But no, in this show, Galadriel is Galadriel. She don't need no man. She's a warrior princess. She's not a great sage who offers her wisdom, who offers her knowledge. She's just a dude who just happens to have the right equipment and is a big, strong woman who don't need no man. She's self-righteous. She's rude. She doesn't know what she's talking about. The fact that she didn't let the buzzcut elf snipe Adar is absolutely stupid. They should have at least made it where maybe Adar was far away, but we've already established that Buzzcut Elf, who is not a character in the Silmarillion, by the way, we've already established that he's a great archer. He could have hit Adar from that range. I mean, the fact that the guy exploded out of a carriage and then shot several orcs with arrows proves this. But no, she's going to stroke his cheek because she knows better, because she's Galadriel and she knows what's up. She knows what's up. She's going to slay. Oh my gosh. This was written like bad fan fiction, but not even sequel fan fictions. It's an alternate reality fan fiction, kind of like how 50 Shades of Grey was a parody of the Dracula parody Twilight. That's how this is written. This is not Tolkien, and it is sad that we're going to go so far low that Galadriel is going to kiss her future son-in-law just to get clicks on social media, so that all the little trolls and bots who want to support this gross mix characterization of Middle-earth and the amazing world that it is, just so that they can all go, oh yeah, Slay Queen, oh yeah, Eladriel. Oh my gosh, it's an embarrassment and it's an affront to all things Tolkien's, and shame on Tolkien's family for letting this atrocity happen. If you like that video, be sure to give it a like, share it out to all your friends, leave me a comment on what you think, and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, ring that little bell so you get notifications when I post a new vidcast, and consider becoming a channel member. If you don't want to support me on big tech, click on the link to my locals community. It's in the description of the video. It is where you can give me tips or you can become a monthly subscriber. It really helps out small indie creators like myself. You can also pick up one of my novels or novellas. They're available on Amazon.com. Pick one up, leave me a 5-star review. I guarantee you it is well written compared to anything Rings of Power has produced. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.